What's going on, guys? This is me, NJT. Well, you could call me Nick, and that's right, we're back, and we are playing. we are, um, and we're doing another Fazbear Frights book review summary, all that crap. Today, it's Fazbear Frights number 6, Blackbird, and this was a pretty cool one. This was very nice. I did like this book, but the middle story was the worst. It's the worst, man. I hated the middle story. Just I'll get into it later. Um, Blackbird was really cool. The first and the last story and the Stitch Wraith were really good. I really enjoyed this one. This would be this would have been one of my favorites if it wasn't for the middle story. Um, but yeah. So as you guys know, we review each of the 3 stories in this book. And we do the Stitch Wraith at the end, and we tie it with other stuff. So yeah, and we also got other news. We also got news about the ending of the well, not the ending, but like the final book is going to be Fazbear Frights number 12, and then there will be an extra 13th book for scrapped and cut stuff, like cut stories. Um, and yeah, um, so the first story of Fazbear Frights number 6 is obviously Blackbird, and it's a pretty good one. I enjoyed this one a lot. So, in Blackbird, there's these 2 kids named Noel and Sam, and what they're trying to do is, for their school, they have a play, that they have to do, or like a movie thing, like they have to do a movie, and they're thinking of doing a horror movie, and what they want to do is like a blackbird. They want to do a story about a blackbird, and the blackbird, like if you do something bad, or if you like, I don't know, say that you've done something bad, the blackbird will come for you, and he will my phone. He will do stuff to you that is bad because until you fix the problem that you have done, the blackbirds are gonna come after you. So he's like he just haunts you. He just haunts you. This was very similar to 1:35 a.m. Blackbird was very similar to 1:35 a.m. But it did have its differences. It did have its differences. So yeah. Um, so they made the Blackbird, and Sam is going to be making the suit. Um, so Sam goes home and he starts making the suit. He starts putting it together, and then when he puts it on, he looks at himself in the mirror and he's like, "Oh, I'm not Sam anymore. I'm now a Blackbird." Which is quite strange. And then after that, oh, hold on, I need to mention something first. Um, for the movie that Sam and Noel are trying to make, they want a lot of blood. There has to be blood. There has to be a lot of blood. That is what Noel said. There has to be a lot of blood, and Noel gets together. Well, he gets in a relationship with this girl called Amber. And yeah, so he's in a relationship with her, and her story or her movie is going to be about knitting because he asked her. And so then when Sam goes home, he creates the Blackbird suit, and then it starts to get strange. This was very weird. But when Noel goes to school, Amber tells him, "Oh, have you heard about what happened to Sam?" And he's like, "No." And then Amber says, "He he went missing. He at the train tracks." And then Noel was so shocked, and he just sort of ran off, and he went to the train tracks, and he saw police cars everywhere, and like so. Then he went to an officer and asked, "Oh, what happened?" And then the officer was like, "Oh, Sam went missing. And then on the train tracks, that's what he said. And then Noel was looking around at the train tracks, and he saw that there was blood, and he saw feathers. And in his mind, Noel started thinking about there has to be blood. And there you go, there was blood on the train tracks. And then Noel goes up to Sam's parents, who are obviously devastated. And while he's talking to them, there's a tree, and he sees a black bird. One of these guys behind the tree, a tall figure, that's a blackbird, and he sees it, and he was like, no, it can't be. He thought he was hallucinating, right? And yeah, and so then after that, um, Noel went home. Sad that his friend Sam, he was pretty close to them. He was pretty well. I mean, he was pretty close to Sam, and he was quite sad when he got home. And so then when he went to bed, he could feel something. He no, when he went to bed, he saw something dart across the room, and it looked exactly like the Blackbird. Excuse me, sorry. And he saw the Blackbird shift across, and then he got up, turned the light on. There was nothing there, and he held out a bat. He went back to bed, went to sleep, and he was holding the bat here just in case. And then the Blackbird starts to sit on top of him, starts to sit on top of Noel, and Noel can't breathe. You can feel it on top of him. And then Noel swings the bat, and then he just disappears. The Blackbird just disappears, and then Noel goes on his computer, and he tries to stay awake, but then he obviously falls asleep, and then he's fine. Then he's fine for the next day. Well, then he's fine for the night, I should say. So yeah, pretty scary. The Blackbird was sitting on top of him, but he doesn't know, was it real or was it not? So, in Noel's past, when he was when he was young, when he was in, infants, when he was in, year 1, year 2, he used to bully this girl called Christine. And he used to bully her quite a lot. She was a chubby girl, quite fat, and that's probably why Noel bullied her. And a lot of other people bullied her as well. It wasn't just Noel who did it. A lot of other people bullied this girl called Christine. When they were in year 1 and year 2 and stuff. That was just gonna say, I was just gonna say that because it's what said in the book. And so then Noel and the girl Amber, they go out, and Amber says, "Oh, sorry, I just sort of, you know, threw the news onto you. You know what I mean? Like, she was sorry that she just said it out of nowhere." And yeah. So then after that, Noel goes back home, goes to sleep again, obviously, and still upset about Sam. He sees Blackbird again. He sees Blackbird dart across his room. So you can see the similarities between 1:35 a.m. and Blackbird. And so then Sam just starts thinking about what he used to do to that girl called Christine. No, he didn't think about that. Forget what I just said. When before Sam went missing, Noel was teasing Sam. He was bullying him a bit about his size. Well, he wasn't chubby, he was very, very tall, and he was just bullying him about it. And then Noel started to think that that might be the reason the Blackbird's haunting him because of what he did to Sam. And so then Noel gets up out of bed, and then he he just goes outside, and then he's like he was gonna do something, but then he just goes back in. Don't know why he just does that. He just does. And then the next night he sees Blackbird again, dart across his room, and then he does get up, and he actually does go outside, and he just runs. He runs outside, and he starts going for a run, and then he just kneels down, and he's like, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." He just starts spinning around and keeps saying that he's sorry for what he's done to Sam, for what he did to Sam. And he just starts saying, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." And then a cop comes up, and he's like, "What are you doing out here, kid?" And then Noel was like, "Oh, I'm trying to say sorry. Oh, I'm trying to fix what I did." And then the cop was like, "Are you on any drugs? You high or anything like that?" And he's like, "No, I'm not. No." And then Noel tells him what he's trying to do, that he's saying sorry about stuff. And then the cop says, I don't know, just to get back to sleep, kid. And so he goes back to bed. And then Noel does realize what he needs to do. So Noel remembered that the Blackbird comes after you unless you he comes after you when you sin or you do something bad, and he just starts stalking you and all that, like what he's been doing to Noel. So then Noel thinks about going to Amber and saying sorry, but first he needs to go, but he doesn't know where Amber is. So what he does is he goes to, excuse me, he goes to Amber's parents' diner because they have a diner pretty close to where he lives. So he goes there and he um goes to the parents and he says, "Can can I speak to Amber? I'm really sorry about what I've done to her. Um, and I used to bully her in year one, so I want to go say sorry." But the Amber's dad doesn't seem angry about it. He just smiles at Noel and says, that you can go and say sorry to her. So he gives her his he gives Noel the address of Amber, where she is now, which is at a dorm in a school. Obviously, it's at a dorm. Um, so then Noel does go there. He goes to the dorm, and he can feel the Blackbird creeping up on him. He starts to sweat, and you know he starts sweating. Um, Actually, I forgot one key important bit. What am I doing? I'm an idiot. Um, Before he goes to Amber, um, Noel was lying in bed. This is before he went to Amber. He was lying in bed, and then the Blackbird comes and he sits on him. And he doesn't get off this time. He's just sitting on top of Noel while he's sleeping. And then Noel was just, having a seizure. He was like, "Get off, get off, get off," and he was freaking out. He couldn't get him off. And then this kid called Ian, who was also going to work on the movie with Noel and Sam, breaks the door. He kicks it open, like the door literally latches off. He goes, and the door opens. He comes in and he checks on Noel. He's like, "No, what's wrong? Are you alright?" And then Noel says to Ian, "I'm fine." And Noel was like, "Thank you for saving my life. Thank you so much." And then Ian says to Noel, "Oh, it looked like you were dying in there. I hope you're okay." Um, So yeah, it was pretty weird that he saw him dying, but I mean, So was the Blackbird there? I don't know. I don't know. Because if it looked like he was dying, then he probably was dying. But anyway, so then Ian says, "Oh, sorry for the broken door. I'm sorry about that." Noel's like, "It's all right," and Noel thanks him again, and he goes out. And then Noel goes to Amber, and he goes to her apartment, but he can feel the Blackbird creeping up on him, ready to pounce. And then Noel goes to Amber's room, and it didn't look like Amber. She looked different. She didn't look as fat, and. And then then Amber says, "Oh, hello," and then Noel, he's just standing there like this, not talking, not doing it. He's just standing there. He's just standing, looking at her, and she's like, "You all right?" And then Noel, he's like, "Do you remember me?" And she's like, "No, I don't remember you." And then Noel starts to cry. He starts to shed some tears, and he's like, "I'm sorry, but my name's Noel, and I used to bully you in year one." And then Amber still doesn't remember him because a lot of people did bully Amber, and she's like, "I still don't remember you, but thank you, um, thank you for saying that." And then she gives him a hug, and then Noel does feel relieved. He doesn't feel like the Blackbird's creeping up on him anymore, which is good. And so this is the end of the story now. So he gets out of Amber's apartment and he goes back home, and guess who's there? It's Sam. Sam was alive the whole time. And Noel's like, "Sam, how are you still alive? You were dead on the tracks." And Sam was like, "No, I didn't die. I tripped over the railroad, and I fell into a ditch, and that's why the cops couldn't find me. So that's why he went missing. No one could find him because he was in a ditch." And so then they start to have a conversation about their past and what they did, and then I'll read you the last page. And then Sam says about what his dark secret was. "Well, I got revenge on one of my bullies by bullying him right back. I played a really mean joke on him before freshman year." "Jerk." Sam laughed back at you. "Nah," Noel said. "No more jerk clones." "What?" Noel laughed. "Oh, it's a joke between Amber and me." "Amber and me, huh? I want to hear about that. Want to grab a pizza?" "Sure, I'm starving. Haven't eaten since before noon. Why not?" "Long story. I'll tell you sometime." "The Blackbird will make you tell," Sam said. Noel's heart stuttered, but then Sam laughed. So, was Sam the Blackbird the whole time? Could it have been Sam? Sam could have been lying, and he could have been chasing Noel this whole time. That's why he was missing. But we don't know. It doesn't say who the Blackbird was. But what I reckon the Blackbird was is just Noel getting paranoid or about Sam. You know how Sam died or he went missing, and just the Blackbird because they were working on it together. He was probably just seeing things. I don't think the Blackbird was real. It could have been real. We don't know, but it probably wasn't. It was probably just Noel going a little crazy, a little insane, over the Blackbird. But yeah. So yeah, that was Blackbird. I really enjoyed that story. That was a good one. I enjoyed reading that one. Blackbird was pretty good. Very, very good. But the next one. This story was very, very boring. Very boring. The Real Jake was the next story in Blackbird, and it is, no offense, but it is the worst Fazbear Frights story ever. It is my least favorite. It is worse than Count the Ways. Count the Ways was bad, but this one was way worse. Much, much, much worse. This was just boring. It was very boring, but it did reveal some things, but still, it could have been a lot better. I reckon it would have been a lot better. But so this is if you guys are familiar with the name Jake, Jake was one of the souls inside the Stitch Wrath. If you guys remember, when we did the other Fazbear Frights books, Jake was in the Stitch Wrath. He was one of the Stitch Wrath souls. He was in there. Um, yeah. So this is about Jake when he was a young kid. Um, so Jake, he has cancer and he's stuck in his house and he can't really go anywhere. And he's laying in a hospital bed. And he's being looked after by this person called Margie, which is his guardian. His mum has tragically died a long time ago. Um, and then and his dad's name's Evan, and he goes to the war. So Jake doesn't really get to see his parents all that much. Um, so yeah. So Margie looks after Jake a lot, and when Jake goes to sleep, um, in his closet, um, well, not when he goes to sleep, but when Margie closes the door, there's this thing in his closet that starts talking to him, and that, oops, the person in the closet who is talking to Jake is called Simon. Um, Simon isn't. You can't see him. Just Jake can just hear him in his closet. So he only comes out when Jake, when Jake is in bed resting at nighttime before he goes to sleep. And at first I thought this was a bit strange because, Simon was in the closet and, it could have been, this could have been the FNAF, the weird FNAF thing. But no. In fact, it's something much different than just some spooky ghost in the closet. But I'll tell you guys a bit later. And something I forgot to mention about this story is that it is the saddest Fazbear Fright story. It is the saddest and the most boring Fazbear Fright story, which is weird. But anyway, um, so this guy called Simon is in the closet and he's talking to Jake, and whenever Simon and Jake talk, Simon asks about Jake's day, and Jake says that he just sits in bed, But then Simon asks him, "I want to know what the real Jake did today." That's why that's why the story's called the real Jake. But anyway, he asks what the real Jake did today. So what the real Jake is what Jake would be doing if he was just a regular kid. Like if he didn't have cancer, he didn't have to go through all that stuff. Yeah, if he was just a regular boy. So he tells him that he, went to the movies, had some popcorn, and then Simon's like, "Oh yeah, I did that too," and that's all Simon says. He just says the same, like he says that he did what Jake did. But anyway, and then for the next couple of nights, Jake, you always forgets to say what the real Jake does. Like when Simon asks about his day, he just says his regular day, and then the Simon has to ask what the real Jake did today. And so then so Jake says, "Oh, I went to the arcade," and for the next few nights he says what else he did, and you get it. It's just what happens. Excuse me, but on the other side of the door, when Simon is talking to Jake, um, Margie is listening in and can hear what they're saying. But Margie's all calm about it, and she has her phone. And what Simon really is just Evan, which is Jake's dad, as I said before. Um, it's Evan. Like it's like a little thing in there that has Evan's voice, but Evan has a voice changer that makes his voice sound like a little kid, which is very nice. And it's just Jake's dad talking to him, but just trying to help him out. Like it's quite nice. It's quite nice that his dad does that for him. It's a very very nice thing. You know. So yeah, that's what Simon really is. So Simon isn't really a ghost. He isn't a weird spirit. He's just Evan's dad. I mean, he's just Jake's dad, talking to him, but with a voice changer. And Margie listens as well. But each night, um, like let's say Jake and Simon talk about going to go eat pizza for dinner. Um, Margie would get a doll and would write what they did, or like they would, let's say they went skating, she would put like a skating boots on, or let's say they ate pizza, she would put like pizza around the lips of the puppet and stuff. Like, if you went, if you did like stuff, she would draw on the puppet, or not the puppet, the plushie or whatever it is. It's a little doll, and she would write on it and put what they did. Like, if they went to the movies, she would maybe put some popcorn stands on the shirt. She would do that. That's what she would do, which is quite nice because, when Jake's all better, when he opens the closet, he sees all that. Like, he sees what they used to talk about, which is nice. It's very nice that Margie and Evan do that. It's quite a wholesome but very sad story. But, yeah, it's nice that they do that. So then, um, there's this guy. His name's Michael, which, Margie tells Jake about him, and she says that, he's really into work, and he's a little weird. It's not Michael Afton. There's no way it's Michael Afton. Um, but yeah, like he and then Jake says to Margie, that he's like he says that he's like a working robot, which I found weird that he said that because then I was starting to think about Michael and Enid when Enid scooped up Michael. It just brought me to that. But anyway, um, so um, then after all that, as I said before at the start, Jake's dad is in the army, and Michael rings up Margie and says that Evan has died, and Margie got quite upset because well, she was sad because she didn't love. She loved Evan, but it says in the book that she loved him more like a brother, not like love like she loved him as a brother. That's what it said in the book. Um, and one of her friends was over named Jill, and then they both started crying because I mean, Jake's dad has passed away in the army, and Margie was said to Jill, "Oh, I'm not crying for me. I'm crying for Jake." Because, as I said, Evan was was Simon all along. So it's gonna be tough because Jake and Simon, they talk each night, and now that Evan has passed away, it's gonna be a little difficult to do that. You can see. Um, so that yeah, it's pretty quite sad. But before Evan dies, Jake, Jake's friend comes over, knocks on the window, and says, "Let's go to the arcade." And then Jake's like, "No, I can't, because of all that, because she's got cancer. You can't really go out in the sun." but his friend insists, and he opens the window and he tries to crawl out. But then he but there's like a cart that his friend brought, and he falls out, and then Margie hears, "What are you doing? What are you trying to do?" And then she gets pissed off at the friend. And then Jake's friend just runs off because he got yelled at, so he just runs um off, and he's just gone now. We never hear of that kid again. And so then Margie's like to Jake, "Oh, that was stupid. Why would you do that? Who do you think you are? You know you can't do that." And then Jake's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, but I just want to be normal, you know." But this was before Evan died. So then Evan dies in the army, and excuse me. When Michael rang up Margie to tell, excuse me, excuse me, sorry. When Michael rings up to tell Margie about Evan dying, he's not particularly worried. He's quite calm about it because he's Michael takes things a little differently. Like, it's hard to explain, but like he doesn't. He's not. He's not. He just doesn't take things the way other people do. He's different from other people. Like if someone dies, he'll be calm about it. He won't get upset and stuff like that. So then Margie goes to Jake's room, and she says um that Simon won't be coming tonight, and then then Jake says, "Oh, how do you know about me and Simon? I thought you didn't know." And then Margie says, "Oh, well, I have to listen in to you, so I have to listen to you because um I'm worried about you, so I have to check up on you, and I hear it." And Jake's like, "Oh, all right." And then Jake asks, "Why isn't he coming?" And then uh, Margie just says, "He just can't make it tonight. He's got stuff to do, a lot of stuff." So yeah, sadly Simon won't be able to make it ever again. And then the day after, um Margie's all upset because she needs to tell Jake that Evan has died, his dad, and that Simon was his dad. So it's going to be hard to tell him, as you can imagine, because he's only young. He won't take it too well. Because he used to talk to Simon every night, so it'd be bad for him to just go away forever. Um, but it was a nice thing that Evan was doing. But now that he's dead, he can't really do that. And so then Michael rings up Margie and says, "Oh, Evan's house is you can come live there now." And so then after that, the ambulance comes and says that they have to take Jake to the hospital to do some stuff because he's got to go through all the chemo and all the therapy and all that. And then they take Jake in his hospital bed into the ambulance, and they make Margie sign a few papers. And then they drive off into the hospital. And Margie does get the house. She gets the house that Evan had. And when she goes to the house and she's in the basement, well, not in the basement, but like when she's going to sleep, she can hear whispers in the house. Um, which is quite weird, but she can hear whispers in the house. And so then Margie goes to the hospital, um, and she goes to Jake, and when she goes in, Jake has sadly passed away. Um, and she was quite upset about it. Jake's died. She's pretty much lost the person that she took care of for a long time of her life, and now he's gone. So his dad's gone. Evans died. His mum died, and now Jake's died. So yeah, Margie's now alone. Well, she's not alone, but she doesn't have those people there, which sucks. Pretty sad story, as I said. So yeah, then Margie gets Evan's house, goes there, and and the and yeah, and before she goes to Evan's house, she puts the doll in the closet, where Jake's room was. She put the doll in the closet, and then she goes to Evan's house, hears the whispers, and yeah. I reckon those whispers. We'll talk about the whispers later, because we're getting to the end of the story now. So, um, this is the end. Um, so yeah, she goes. Yeah, as I said, she goes to the house, hears the whispers, goes to the hospital, sees Jake, um, has died, and I will continue. I'll say the last story. So Margie forced her legs to work, and she crossed to break Jake's bed. His body looked so small and fragile. She leaned over him and pressed her lips to his forehead. I love you, Jake. I love you so much. Body tickled her chin. Gillian came up behind Margie and whispered, Goodbye, Jake. The three medical professionals wouldn't have had reason to see any amiss. For all they knew, it was normal. Even Gillian would not have commented on it. She might have seen it, but she wouldn't attach any meaning to it. Margie, though, Margie would have. But she didn't. Nobody saw. 5 people, 5 set of eyes, and none of them noticed the little cabinet door was wide open. So, that was the real Jake. Very bad story. Very sad story, though. But it was not. I didn't like it. It was the worst Fazbear Frights story out of all the Um, sorry. Out of all the 18, that was my least favorite. And it was very annoying. Well, it wasn't annoying, but it did tell us some things. But it was mainly the ending that really told us a lot. But anyway, so if you guys remember Margie, Margie was the girl in all the way back in the second Stitch Wraith story from Fetch. If you remember, she was the girl that the detective Larson went to, and he looked in the closet and he saw all the writing there. That was the writing from the doll. And the ending of this book states that since Margie put the doll in the closet opened and the doll was either taken by was probably just walked off. It was either taken by someone, maybe what's his name, the professor that created the Stitch Wraith, the Phineas, Dr. Phineas. He could have taken it, or it could have just walked off by itself, which it probably did. And if you guys didn't realize by now, remember when Detective Larson showed Margie the picture of the Stitch Wraith, and she saw the face of the Stitch Wraith, and she says, I know exactly what that was. That's the doll that she made for Jake. That's how Jake gets into the Stitch Wraith, because the doll's face is the Stitch Wraith's face. And that's why he can see everything, and that's why the other guy in the Stitch Wraith, what's his name or whatever, is the heart. Jake is the eyes. So the thing, the stuff around the Stitch Wraith's mouth wasn't blood. It was just ketchup and pizza stains all around it. So it was the mask isn't really that bad. It's It's like, you think it's really bad, but it's just a really cute little thing, which is nice. It's nice that the Stitch Wraith's got some good in him. Um, so yeah, that was the real Jake. A very boring but sad story. It did reveal some things, which was alright, but it could have done it a bit better. Could have done a bit better. Maybe it could have said what happened to the doll. It would have made it a bit more interesting. But anyway, that was the real Jake, and now on to my favorite story out of this book, which was probably the makeup for the real Jake, was Hide and Seek. This one was very, very nice. I did enjoy this a lot. This was a great book. I mean, this was a great story. Um, yeah. Um, so the story is about this kid called Toby, and he has an older brother Connor, and they work at Freddy Fazbear's arcade. Um, which is I don't think it's Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, but it's like an arcade version of Freddy Fazbear's, where it's just arcade games. There's just all arcade games there. I think they still have pizza, but there's no animatronics. It didn't say any animatronics were in this story. Um, but yeah, so Connor and Toby are brothers, and they both work at. Well, Connor used to work at Freddy Fazbear's Arcade, but now Toby works there. Um, and his boss is cool. He's not an angry boss. And yeah, he works there instead of Connor because Connor doesn't work there anymore. And um, so um. So Toby um sees this mini game there called hide and seek, and so he goes in. He plays it. He goes to play it, and what you need to do is um you need to um you need to so there's there's these cardboard cutouts of a school, of a police station, and of a park, and there's this Bonnie, this shadow Bonnie thing, that's on like these railing things that it slides along the railings, and it can hide in one of those places, and you need to try and find him on a computer. There's a computer there. You type in your name, like say Toby wants to go. You type in Toby, and you have to find Shadow Bonnie. Well, that's what we're gonna call him. We're gonna call him Shadow Bonnie. And you have three attempts. One goes three attempts, and if you don't find him, you don't win. But if you do find him, you do win. And the record, because it says their name in the record, was like 2 minutes and like 50 seconds. So yeah, and you get 3 minutes to do it. So 3 minutes, three tries. So yeah, that's how it works. Um, and so um, Toby has a go at it. Because he goes in there because Connor has all the high scores for a lot of pretty much all of the games in the arcade, and Toby wants to beat him for once. But Connor doesn't know about hide and seek, so that's why Toby goes into hide and seek so he can beat it, and yeah, so he can be better at Connor. So they have a sibling rivalry, but this has been going on for a long time. That Connor's always been better than Toby. Like in school, there's a bit of backstory for the two. Connor usually always gets good marks, and then Toby, he gets the lower marks. He doesn't do as well. Like he, gets into arguments with the teachers, but the teachers like Connor, and they obviously don't like Toby. Um, yeah, um, and so Toby wants to beat Connor for once. He wants to be better than him, better than his bigger brother. So he goes in and he looks around for him, and he clicks the schoolhouse. Nope. Um, and then he clicks the jail. Nope. He clicks the police station. Nah. And then he pops out behind like a bush or something. Um, and Toby gets angry, and then another kid comes in and is like, "Hey, it's my turn." And then Toby says, "No," and then he slams the door on him, and he has another go, and he fails again. And then he gets pretty pissed off, and he storms out of the pizzeria. Um, then he goes home, and Connor and Toby get into a big argument. Toby says, "Oh, why are you always better than me? You always have to be better than me at everything." And then Connor starts teasing his brother, saying Connor starts saying that Toby's a loser and you'll never beat me at anything and you're just bad at everything and you're a loser. And then Toby obviously gets pretty pissed off and they get into a big fight. Like they throw some punches, they slam each other on the table. Boom, 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 boom. They get into a big brotherly fight. Um, and yeah. So then after that, Toby goes back to hide and seek, and he goes back to the pizzeria to play hide and seek again. And there's this guy that's usually there. His name's Reggie. He's always at the arcade. He's Toby's friend at the arcade, and he doesn't really see him anywhere else but the arcade. Um, and he then Toby goes into hide and seek again, to try and beat it this time because he wants to beat his brother, and he cheats. He puts these blocks, or like these things that he puts them down on the police station, the jail, and the school, so that the railings stop, and he can't excuse me, excuse me, so that Shadow Bonnie can't get through, which is cheating, obviously. Um, and yeah, that's pretty bad. So, he does that, and he presses in the spots where Shadow Bonnie, um, obviously won't be able to hide. So the lights turn off, and then he sees Shadow Bonnie moving around, going to somewhere, and he then, um, Toby clicks the places that are outside of the school. Nope. First try, nope. Second try, nope. Third try, still nothing. And then Shadow Bonnie pops up, and then Toby gets pissed. So then Toby gets mad and he smashes all the cardboard. He smashes it all. He rips the pegs off of the cardboard that's holding them up. He just smashes them. He breaks them. He breaks them. Punches it, smashes it, and he wrecks hide and seek. He wrecks it so bad. Um, and good one, Toby. He wrecked it now. And there's just cardboard everywhere, and it's just all gone, all wrecked. Um, so yeah, he wrecked it. He wrecked hide and seek. It's now broken. So then he goes back home, and he's pissed off. And then when he goes to work the next day, his boss asks him, he asks him, "Oh, do you know what happened to hide and seek? It's all broken." And then Toby sees that hide and seek has like it's taped off, and he's like, "No, I've never saw what happened. I don't know who did it. I have nothing to do with it. You know all that." He lies, which is not good. Um, but he lies anyway. And then so I'm just a bit thirsty. Then um Toby's boss says that the police might come to your house and ask you a few questions about what happened. And then he says, "Are you sure you didn't see anything happen last night?" And he's like, "No, I don't know anything." And then um, Toby, he goes home, looks in the mirror, and he sees a big shadow behind him. About his size, not a big shadow, but he can see a shadow there. When he looks in the mirror, and he starts to get freaked out by it. He tries to move around to get rid of it, but no, it still stays there. But he can only see it through he can only see it through a mirror. So yeah. Um, excuse me. So yeah. Um, then for the next few days, the shadow still stays on him. He can't get rid of it. And then um, he starts to make a list of what to do on how to get rid of the shadow. So one of them is trying to brush it off in the shower. So he gets like a comb and he starts just washing his back and he starts to bleed badly and just starts bleeding because of the pressure that he's applying, and it still didn't come off. Then he has another idea to go run it off, something like that. I don't know. Nope, didn't work. And he tried all his other ideas. And then there's one idea that is um, to jump in a pool and swim it off. So, um, Toby goes to school, and when he's in gym class, there's a pool in the gym or wherever he is in the school, and so he goes in there to the pool, grabs some weights and hooks them to his life jacket so it can weigh him down, and so he can get rid of the shadow. So he goes into the pool and he starts to sink. Down he goes into the pool. And then he tries to get the dumbbells off, or the weights, and he can't. They're stuck on the life jacket. He can't get them off. And he starts to drown. He's like, like, he can't breathe underwater, and he can't get the dumbbells off. But then there's this girl that comes in to the pool, and she comes in and she jumps in, grabs Toby and pulls him up, and she saves his life. Gets the dumbbells off, gets the life jacket off, and yeah, she pretty much just saved Toby's life. Um, and she's like, "Oh, what are you doing here? You better give me a reasonable explanation, or I'll tell you the principal," which is a little mean. Like, come on, don't. Just because someone's swimming in a pool trying to get rid of a shadow Bonnie, or just a shadow, you can't, well, do that to them. It's just mean. So she sort of forces him to tell her, um, that about why he was in the pool. And so at lunch, he tells her what to do, what he's trying to do. He tells her that he wrecked the game, and now there's this shadow that's getting bigger and bigger following him, and he's saying that he can't eat, that he's feeling a little sick. And then after he tells her all that, she's like, "Okay, all right. Well, I hope you get rid of it, but I want to see the like, she's like, yeah, I hope you get rid of it." And she hands him a bit of her sandwich, and then Toby feels a little more relieved after he expresses everything out. Um, and yeah, so he feels more relieved, and now he can eat a bit, so he eats the sandwich. And yeah, he's feeling a little more relieved, but the shadow, he keeps looking in the mirror, and the shadow does keep getting bigger and bigger. And then Toby does vomit a bit, and he feels a little sick. He skips school for 2 days. That's how bad it is. Um, and Connor does say, "Oh, you should stay home, get some rest," and yeah. And so then the next day, a police officer comes, knocks on the door, and asks Toby some questions about the night that hide and seek was destroyed. He said, "Were you playing hide and seek? No. What were you doing at that time?" Or, "I was mopping the floor, cleaning the place up." Do you have anything to do with it? Did you see anyone run out? No, I didn't see anyone run out, and I just, yeah. And then the officer says, do you did you have anything to did you wreck hide and seek? And he's like, "No, I did not wreck hide and seek." So Toby does lie again to a police officer. Um, but Toby is scared that the police officer will find out what happens, what happened and what he did. Um, so yeah, pretty but you shouldn't lie about that, because then when um when Toby goes to the mirror, he can see the shadows gotten way bigger. He can see rabbit ears as well. He can see pointy rabbit ears. And so then, when Toby goes to work, he he sees the friend, the girl that helped him out at the pool, um, at the place at the pizzeria, and Reggie gasps at Toby because Reggie's like, "Dude, look at that shadow behind you." So Reggie can see the shadow. Excuse me. Reggie can see it, but no one else can apparently. And then Toby asks, "Can you see the rabbit ears?" And Reggie's like, "Huh?" And he's like, "Never mind." And then he goes over to his friend, that was the girl, and she says, "Oh, I want to see what happened to the hide and seek. That's why I'm here." And so she goes over, looks what happened, and then Reggie pulls her aside and tells her about the shadow that he can see. And yeah. So then after that, we get a bit of backstory about the Connor and Toby's past. When Toby and Connor were young boys, their mum left them, and they still don't get an explanation. They still don't know why. And so then Toby goes over to his dad and asks, "Dad, why did mum leave us?" And his dad just stares, staying watching the footy, and he doesn't respond. Toby waits there for 5 minutes for an answer, but he doesn't get one. Yeah, it's pretty sad. Um, but anyway, after that, um, Toby goes up to his room, and he can hear um the what do you call it? He can hear his brother Connor and his dad watching the footy together, because that's what they usually do. His Connor and Toby's dad, or their dad, have a Connor and their dad have a okay. Connor and his dad, and Toby's dad. Anyway, Connor and his dad, they have a good relationship, but Toby isn't really, like, he doesn't really get involved with the things that they do, and yeah. So, mm. And so then um Toby looks in the mirror and he sees that there's teeth and eyes on the shadow. And now it looks like Shadow Bonnie. It resembles Shadow Bonnie, but it isn't the Shadow Bonnie from the games that we know. It's a different Shadow Bonnie, a different type or different version of him. And so yeah, you can. It's a bunny now, and then, when Toby goes um, to work, to the arcade, he goes inside and looks at what's going on, and you can see a guy fixing up the machine, fixing up hide and seek, and he says, "Oh, how's it going? What's happening?" And he's like, and then the guy's like, "Oh, I'm fixing it up, and on this, and it's not working. I can't reboot it." And then he says, um, then the guy who's fixing it says, "Oh, there's a scoreboard, and the last person that was in here's name was Toby." And then Toby got a little scared about that. And then the guy's like, "I'll go tell that to the boss." And then Toby's like, "Yeah, okay," and walks out. So, yeah, it looks like the boss is gonna know that Toby did it, and he's gonna get in a big trouble. Um, but then, so when Toby gets home, Connor and Toby start talking, and they get into yet another argument. So then, Toby and Connor argue again, and Toby says, "Oh, you always have to be better than me. You always have to spend time with Dad and leave me out." And then Connor's like, "No, you're just." And then Connor's like, "Oh, you're just jealous that me and Dad spend all the time together and we don't." And now Toby's looking real pale, looking really sick now. Um, and then Connor says, "Oh, you're just jealous about me and Dad, and you're the one being left out. You're the one who's not spending time with us. We're trying to spend time with you, but you're not. You're pushing us away." Um, and then Toby says, "Yeah, because you always have to be better than me in everything." And then Connor says, "You know what? Fine. I'm done. I give up." And Toby's like, what?" And Connor's like, "Fine. I'm not better than you. I'll let you go beat that game at the arcade." Then Connor just sort of gives up. He doesn't care anymore about this competition that they've been having for years. He just gives up there and then. And then Toby's like, "All right." And then he looks at the mirror and he sees that the shadow has gone down. It's not. It doesn't have bunny ears. It doesn't have that big smile. It's gone down. It's gone smaller now. Not very small, but I'm just a little bit smaller. And then Toby, he decides he has to go back and he has to finish the game. Hide and seek. So now, um, yeah, Toby goes back and he knows that he has to finish the game. He has to finish it. And so when he goes back to the arcade, he goes in, he sneaks in while no one's looking. He sees Reggie, and he's like, "Oh, go away, I don't want to talk to you now. I'm doing something." So Toby went in, turned on the power, and the voice says, "Are you ready to continue, or do you want to forfeit the game?" And then I will read the final page. Toby bit his bottom lip at a familiar feeling spread over him. You see, he couldn't really get over the fact that the shadow had attached to him, that the shadow had played the ultimate cheat on Toby by making him hurt himself, by making him believe he was going crazy so it could just win the freaking game. The shadow had wanted to win, and Toby had let it. Toby shut his eyes, trembling with anger. "You thought you could beat me?" he said. "You thought you could turn my own cheating back on me? Well, I got a surprise for you. I'm not a loser. You're the loser." He opened his eyes, punched down on the continue button with hated determination. Then turned his back to the park wall. He felt the shadow's anger slam over him. Jaws tight, Toby rushed backward toward the pegs where the tree was supposed to hang, and rammed himself into the sticks. The peg stabbed through Toby's back. Toby's body stiffened as he gasped. His toothpick dropped from his mouth. He felt the shadow release. The dark energy faded away from him as if he never existed. I won, he whispered as blood dripped from his mouth. He smiled right before his eyes gently closed. The instrumental music restarted through the speakers. Welcome to Hide and Seek. Enter your name to try and find Barney. Let's begin. So Toby's an idiot, guys. He could have just clicked forfeit and it all would have been over. But he killed himself for no reason. He just walks back into the pegs and he just walks back and goes and he just dies. Like, come on. Like, why would you do that? He could have just clicked forfeit and it all would have been over. And no. He wants to just beat that Shadow Bonnie, but I did enjoy it though. That was a good story. It was a really, really good story. The ending was it was rather a surprise. But yeah, it was a really good story. I mean, I don't go in depth with these stories. I sort of do like a little summary. I don't explain everything. I only say the important key moments. So if you do want a full summary, go to Dorko. But if you go to Dorko, his videos are longer. Like he does 50 minutes for each story, but I just put them all in a 1 hour video. But anyway, that was the first 3 stories. That was Hide and Seek. Hide and Seek was amazing. I really enjoyed it. Yeah, Hide and Seek was really good. Now we are going on to probably the coolest Stitch Wraith story and probably one of the highlights of the books of this book. So here we go. This is the Stitch Wraith, and this is probably the best and one of the most important stories. So Larson, he pulls up to a abandoned factory, and he goes inside, and he goes in, and he sees that that there's something in there, and he could hear all these noises and stuff, and he saw the Stitch Wraith in there, and the Stitch Wraith didn't care about him, about Larson, and Larson saw arms of. He saw an arm of Foxy, and he saw the hook from Remember Step Closer. Yeah, it was the hook of Foxy, and he and all of like a lot of items from the past books are now being compacted in a trash compactor, and they're all being squashed. And he's like, "Stop, freeze!" to the Stitch Wraith. But what I like about this story is that it goes from inside the Stitch Wraith back to Larson. Like, it goes from Larson's point of view to the Stitch Wraith's point of view, which is pretty cool. That's why this story is so cool. And then Jake says to Andrew, "Don't hurt him, leave him alone." And then Andrew's like, "No, I have to hurt him. He'll shoot us." And they start to get into like a sort of fight, and they start to try to take control of the Stitch Wraith. Like the Stitch, like then it goes. It goes back to Larson now, and Larson sees the Stitch Wraith going all crazy because Andrew and Jake are trying to fight over the Stitch Wraith, and Larson can just see it happening, and he's just pointing his gun at it, and then it goes back to Jake and Andrew, and then they fall into the trash compactor. They're on it now, and then hold on a sec, guys. Sorry about that. Okay, so then Larson can see them. They're on the trash compactor, and now it goes back to Jake and Andrew. And it starts crushing all of the old pieces from all the past animatronics and the things in the old books. It starts going squashing them, destroying them. And then Jake had that memory again about the baseball field. And then Jake was starting to float off into heaven. So Jake grabs Andrew's hand and he's like, "Come with me, we're going to heaven." and then they they go up, they start to fly, but then something grabs Andrew, and then Jake says that there's something else in here with us, something else in the Stitch Wraith, and then Andrew says it's him, and then it's then it goes back to Larson. And then Larson could see like a light. He could see the light coming out of the Stitch Wraith. And then Jake then it goes back to Jake and Andrew. And guess who that spirit or the thing that's inside the Stitch Wraith is? It's William Afton. William Afton's trying to take Andrew back down and keep him in the Stitch Wraith. So William Afton's been in the Stitch Wraith for a while. Just a tiny part. A tiny part of William Afton has been in the Stitch Wraith. Which is this? This is the burnt man. And the books, the Jake and Andrew see the burnt man. That's all crisped up. That's just looks really bad. It's the man from the man in room 1280. That's the same guy. It's William Afton pulling them down. And then it goes back to Larson, and then Larson saw it keep breaking all the other animatronics, and then Larson looks around and he sees the light, as I said before, and then the Stitch Wraith gets squashed, and he's like, the Stitch Wraith's dead, and then he starts talking on his little thing, the things that the detectives use, and they talk in it, and he starts talking. He's like, oh, what the hell? I'll keep talking, and he keeps talking, and he says, I think the stuff in the compactor came from the Fazbear Entertainment Distribution Center, and also from the site where the killer William Afton, the one notorious for wearing a rabbit costume, died. So, it does confirm that the man in 1280 was William Afton. And William Afton is in this series, in this book series. He's canon to this series, to the Fazbear Fright story. So he was, yeah, it literally just confirmed it. Larson literally confirmed it. And then, yeah, Larson could start to hear something um, in the trash compactor, and this bit is amazing. So Larson could hear things start to form in the trash compactor, and I will read the last page. It formed itself out of animatronic body parts, but not in any logical way. They were all joining all haywire. Heads were being used as joints, arms as legs, and legs as arms. A torso formed from the hips and chest and belly of 3 animatronics, but each part was put in the wrong place. Hands were inserted at random all over the structure. Woven through all these misplaced pieces were wires and gears, which created a labyrinth circulatory system connecting hinges to gears and screws and nails to eyes and noses and mouths. With each additional piece clamping into place, the miscreation stood taller and taller until it was nearly 15 feet tall. Then, looming over the detective, it leaned to the side and lifted a macabre head and up to a neck made from shins. The head, like the rest of the being, was made from animatronic parts: fingers, toes, wires, hinges. Within those parts, 2 gaping black holes looked out at the world with pure malevolence, and from the top of the unnatural structure, what looked like 2 rabbit ears made of even more animatronic parts unfolded and canted forward. They were aimed right at the detective. William Afton is back, and he is. So, you guys could imagine that scene where all the animatronic parts coming up and forming one big rabbit in front of Detective Larson, and when I read this, it was just so amazing. And so William Afton's back, pretty much. And Jake and Andrew, um, I think they're in heaven now. They might come back for the next one, but now they're in heaven. I'm pretty sure they should be in heaven now. But anyway, they've been set free. Their ghosts have been set free, and yeah, now now it's Spring Bonnie's back. The William Afton, he's taken a new form, and yeah, that was just it was so good. This book was amazing. The first two, the first, the last, and the Stitch Wraith stories were good. The real Jake, yeah, we'll forget about that one. But the ending definitely made up for the real Jake. It was really good. This is probably one of my favorite books, apart from the middle. But we'll forget about that. The Stitch Wraith was just amazing. William Afton's back, and I cannot wait to see what happens with Detective Larson and the Stitch Wraith and what's going to happen. So yeah, amazing. A few things was answered in this book. William Afton was the killer. He was um he's canon to the Fazbear Frights stories. We know that now, which is good. Um, and he did kill people, and he was the man in 1280. That was William Afton. So yeah, guys, that was Blackbird. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. It's a long one as usual, so please like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Um, and next video will be Fazbear Frights number 7, which will be coming out next week. Either next week or the week after. If it's not next week, no, it'll be next week. It'll be next week. So yeah, please like and subscribe. That was Fazbear Frights number 6. Really good book. Can't wait to see what happens in the next Stitch Wraith, because I will definitely be reading The Cliffs tomorrow. I'm reading The Cliffs tomorrow. So please like and subscribe. Bye bye.